Brisbane has long fought to lose its tag of being a big country town, but a growing band of artists say that hard-won reputation as a cultural capital could be under threat. The emerging arts sector has been hit by state cuts since the government came to power. Peak body Youth Arts Queensland is among a handful of organisations which have been forced to close. The Minister says the arts community must share the pain, but as Louisa Rebgetz reports, it's some of the small players who are suffering the most.
It's Friday night in Brisbane and art lovers are heading to one of the city's hotspots, the Brisbane Powerhouse. Inside, the ensemble in residence is kicking off a state tour of their new show, Share House.
Really is a culmination of our journey as a band. We've been living together for 15 years in the story, and it very closely mimics all our personalities.
Made up of 5 Brisbane musicians, Topology mentors young composers in schools across Queensland. But the group says its future is now uncertain, having lost state government funding worth $300,000 over 3 years.
It was just a shock in that we had sort of this growth spurt, and we were just sort of on the verge of making another big leap, and we've suddenly had to really pare back and think about how we're going to go into the future. At the moment, it's pretty much month by month.
The group's one of many. Since coming to power, the state government's cut $12.4 million from the arts budget over 4 years.
This government was left with a dreadful mess by the former Labor government. And so we have had to be very careful with taxpayers' money and not spend beyond our means.
It's the smaller players who've been hit the hardest.
The cumulative effect of that is that the youth arts sector is I guess, reeling a little bit at the moment to have so many significant companies lose their funding. And we're talking about companies that have 25-year histories.
Youth Arts Queensland has folded. Contact Inc. closed earlier this year, and Backbone Arts is looking wobbly.
I'm a bit concerned that if the youth arts sector loses all its funding or loses its way, then that generator of young artists, of young cultural leaders and producers, of ideas, of entrepreneurship, of innovation, if that loses its support, then we're going to start going backwards.
Nobody's been targeted. What we've had to do is to make sure that those who were most worthy got continuing funding, and that did mean that some who previously had received funding now miss out.
Several organisations didn't get a call back in the last round of funding. Just 2 groups were added to the list.
We've recently had news that our triennial funding was cut, which was quite a surprise.
Kim Machin runs Media Art Asia Pacific, or MAP, for emerging artists in Brisbane's Fortitude Valley. It also lost $300,000 in core funding, despite winning a major national award and touring the Land, Sea, Sky exhibition through China.
We were given lots of congratulations. I even had a personally signed letter from our Arts Minister congratulating our organisation on the outstanding work that we were doing. But then it was just 8 weeks later we had a letter signed by the Minister to say that we wouldn't be getting any more funding.
Some, though, have escaped the cuts. The Queensland Ballet, Opera Queensland and the State Theatre Company have maintained their traditional base.
The difficulty with the bigger players in the arts sphere is that we have, in most cases, complementary arrangements with federal government and with other funding bodies, and they also have significant contracts over a period of time, which do make it difficult for them with their budgetary considerations. So the major players have basically had to stay where they are.
We'll be left with the Ballet, Opera, State Theatre Company, who do great things for what they do. But if you lose the sector that generates the ideas and the people, then I'm afraid of what will be in the next 10 years, what we'll be saying about this state and this city in the next 10 years.
But what we started to see already is artists starting to move away from Brisbane, and we're seeing that highway to Melbourne get much busier.
The state government says regional arts have had a boost and private enterprise must play a greater role.
I think it is important for organisations who are funded to make sure that they're looking at every opportunity to move away to a situation where they are less reliant, on government funding and are able to use that as part of a mix of other funding, philanthropic or their own earnings, so that they're on a much more stable financial basis.
At the Powerhouse, topology fans are absorbing the new reality.
That's quite disappointing, actually, yeah. So I really enjoyed it, yeah, it was great. And I come and see things here all the time, so that's, disappointing.
These are wonderful creative artists who are using the chamber music platform in a new and engaging way. Wonderful.
While the musicians themselves are worried creativity is a fragile thing.
I'm worried about the climate of what the message it sends to people, actually. Yeah, more than how musicians are going to survive.
We don't have a money tree to continually spend money. We have to do it in a careful way. And I'm still sure that we are funding a very vibrant arts sector in Queensland.